Welcome. You're listening to Showtime with Coop Podcast, insightful BS by my Laker teammates and NBA legends. And we got one of the best in the house today. He is the true innovator of what they call being posterized. That's big. Don't then it goes into a big poster. We got the one and only, I'm going to call him because he's a friend of mine and a competitor, Dr. J, but I'm going to call him by his Julius Erving. Doc, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing fine, Michael. Everybody calls you Coop. Everybody calls you Coop, and that's that's the common name in which they know you by, and the whole Cooper Loop thing or whatever. You establish yourself too. You're a very special guy, and I always enjoy competing against you.
Thank you, Doc. You know what? I'm gonna just name out a couple of your accolades before we get started, because there's a whole bunch of them. But you were 11-time NBA All-Star from '97 to '87, 5-time ABA All-Star, Walter J. Kennedy Citizenship Award winner in 1983. Doc, I won that, and I love that. That's probably one of my most precious awards there.
Very special.
Your number 32 is retired by the Brooklyn Nets. Your number 6 is retired by the Philadelphia 76ers. You are on the NBA 35th anniversary team. You're one of the 50 greatest players on the anniversary all time. And point-wise, you 30,026 points for a 24-point average, 10,000 rebounds plus some for 8.5 for your career, and 5,176 assists for 4.2 for your career. And Doc, you know what, that last one, the assist, I don't really chalk that up because if I'm throwing you the ball, I don't need you to throw it back to me. I need you to do what you do best in that score.
They need to put it up.
Doc, is the family doing well?
Yeah, family's doing well. Thanks for asking. I got a son over at Cal Berkeley, so he's out there. And he's a senior this year. And as a matter of fact, I got 2 other sons out there, 2 daughters, and 5 grandkids. And here at home, I have a boy and a girl. So they're holding down the fort at home. So that's a pretty big family. And family's everything. Family first, man. That's the way it should be.
We have been blessed, haven't we? And I also want to say happy belated birthday. You just turned 71 on the last
71,
month, right?
Man. Yeah, I'm catching somebody. But then there's somebody else I'm leaving behind in the dust.
So, Doc, listen, real quick, let's get into this. Who were some of your role models growing up back in Nassau and New York?
Yeah, in Nassau County, the athletes, a lot of athletes from Long Island. Jim Brown is from there, so I always heard about his exploits. And, when he left Manhasset High School, went to Syracuse, and then went on to be, if not the greatest NFL player in history, one of them. And, so he was a guy. I had to walk past jumping Johnny Green's house to get to school. And
I heard him.
He was playing for the Knicks. Yeah, he used to always get those little tip-ins and, blend in real well. He was a lefty. And so to see him play at Madison Square Garden, was pretty special. Other than that, on Long Island, who else was out there? There's somebody I'm forgetting about. John Mackey. John Mackey, yeah, the tight end
for the Colts,
Baltimore Colts, and in his last days, I got a long car ride with him that was recognizing he's from Long Island, and it's always special to me because he had some dementia. He was repeating himself, but I was just listening like an eager, wide-eyed kid does. When you're in the presence of somebody who is 10 years or more older than you, who has done great things. So I always tried to be that guy to others and, do some great things, achieve some things, and then, spread the wealth and enjoy that feeling and also that understanding of what it takes to do those things with the next generation.
Doc, and it's funny you would mention Mackey because I enjoyed him. He wore number 88 with the Colts. He's a tight end. Great player, man. Doc, who was your nemesis? Who was your nemesis? I had a nemesis growing up in high school, a guy that I just couldn't beat. Was this guy named Mark Wolfmeyer. He was a white dude. And every time I saw this guy, he always gave me 35, 40 points in an 8-minute game. This is before 3-pointers too. Who was that guy for you?
Well, listen to his name, Wolfmeyer. That's intimidating right there. I don't want to play against a guy named Wolfmeyer.
Who was your nemesis?
But you know, when I grew up on Long Island, and there was a very special player, a guy named Al Williams, who went to Niagara. First year there, he broke all of Calvin Murphy's records. And he was a two-sport athlete like Allen Iverson, played football and played basketball, never lost a football game in his high school career. So I thought we were going to be teammates because we grew up together through 8th grade. And then I moved to another community, and suddenly he was on the other team. So this was my boy. And suddenly, I had to face him. And he was a little guy, like 5'10", 5'11", or whatever, but very special, very much like AI. There was a guy named Bill Chamberlain who was in the same class that I was in, and he went to a private school on Long Island. It was called Long Island Lutheran. He was 6'6". When we were juniors, I was like 6'2.5", or whatever. So he was not a guy who I could really do anything with. He got a scholarship to North Carolina, became an All-American, an MVP in the NIT. And I think, the pro life just wasn't suited for him. He got injured, got some injuries and whatever, and didn't advance. So, there's something about growing and blossoming late as opposed to early, because I can name a half a dozen guys who at age 12 or 13, they could do everything I've seen anybody do on a basketball court. And they were still doing the same thing at 16 and doing the same thing at 20, and they hadn't grown any. Or whatever. So there's something to being a late bloomer.
Well, Doc, I consider myself a late bloomer. I was probably about 6 feet, 6'1" in high school as a senior. I was blessed with athleticism, but I had a growing spurt. I hit my growing spurt my first year in college. I went to junior college. I grew like 4 inches that summer. Were your hands and arms always that long and that big?
Yeah, well, I was 6'3.5" when I came out of high school. So I grew 3 inches and gained 30 pounds in college, but I always had the big mitts. I always had big mitts and had fun using them. And I always had big shoes, which meant I had to wear shoes and sneakers for a long time because shoes cost a lot of money. And with my mom,
hand-me-downs from somebody else.
Hey, my mom raising 3 kids, we didn't have a whole lot of money for shoes and sneakers. So that was part of the hustle.
Remember the first time you dunked?
The first time I dunked was on an 8-foot basket at my elementary school. And on one side, they had an 8-foot basket. The other side, they had a 9-foot basket. So we used to kill that 8-foot basket. The 9-foot basket used to kill us. And then finally we got it. We started killing the 9-foot basket, and then eventually led to the 10-foot basket. But by the time I got to the 10-foot basket, I had all kinds of tricks, inside out, switching hands, around the back, over the head. I had all kinds of tricks from dunking on those lower baskets. So there's a note.
You develop your creativity on them lower baskets.
Absolutely. Without the risk of falling from 10 feet, right?
Could you always palm a ball, Doc? Because I used to do it with a tennis ball. I couldn't palm a basketball.
No? Oh, man, all those moves I saw you making, flying in the air, stuff, you couldn't palm that ball? Imagine if you could palm it, man. How much of a difference that would have made. So it was some advantages. And, I remember Rick Barry and Bill Russell doing a cast of a show, a basketball game. And Rick Barry said, "Oh, man, there's Dr. J. He could do all that tricky stuff because he got big hands." And Bill said, "I got big hands and I can't do it." So I don't think it's just the big hands. I think you need to, refine them and use them. And the big hands are a blessing, but you still need to learn how to use them.
Oh, for sure. So, Doc, you go through high school, you get to college, you only spend, a year or two in college, and then you make the jump and go to the ABA.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, 3 years in college, because I went there as a student athlete, and I wanted to get my degree. So freshman year, we played freshman basketball. Our team was 17-0, so we were really good. Then the next year we were 18-6, didn't get an NCAA bid, but we went to the NIT. We lost to the eventual champions, who were the North Carolina Tar Heels, and they had that guy, Bill Chamberlain, on that team. He was MVP. And then the next year we were 23-2 and got snubbed by the NCAA. So we went back to the NIT and we played Marquette. And they beat us. And Marquette won the tournament that year, and North Carolina also won the tournament.
Hey, Doc, let me interrupt you for a quick second. I want you to go back to something you said that was important for our younger listeners about the fact of being a student athlete, going to school. Why was that important for you?
Yeah, so I promised my mom, I said, when I was tempted to sign and I got an offer, I said, Mom, I'm going to finish college because you'd always taught me to finish what you start. And I said, I don't know how long it's going to take, but I'm not giving up on pursuing my degree. And she was an educator as well. So she knew the importance of it. So I left after my junior year, and then I just needed to make up a year. And so, I didn't elect to go to summer school, and I kind of lollygagged around a little bit, just showcasing my newfound fame as a professional athlete. And then it hit me one day, man, you need to go ahead and get your degree. You need to finish. And so they had a University Without Walls program. And UMass was one of the schools that I think were there in the beginning, the founders of that particular program. And I got through, man. I had to do papers and I had to do research. They allowed for some of what I did professionally to count as credit towards the degree. And then I marched with the class of 86.
Congratulations,
so I went in 68, came out with the class of 86, and that was a proud moment for my family and for me.
Doc, how old were you then?
Well, it was 18 years, so I was 36. So I was 36, yeah.
So you make the jump to the ABA.
Yeah.
What was that like for you joining a new league, the red and white basketball? It wasn't the NBA. What was that like for you?
Yeah, I think it was a pretty good step in my evolution as a person and as an athlete. Going to the ABA, for me, I mean, I thought it was an honor to be a pro. I wasn't one of those guys walking around, with my chest pumped out. I mean, I averaged, my last year of college, I averaged like, 27 points and 20 rebounds or whatever. So I'm on that short list of people who in their college career averaged more than 20 points a game and more than 20 rebounds. And just to mention those two stats. So the way it affected me was I just did my job when I got out there, and I was chase the ball and score the ball. Guards were jacking it up. I'd get rebounds, put them back up, put them back in. The same way you saw me play. So, what did that mean? I mean, it just meant that, okay, I was one of the lucky ones who got a chance to go play college basketball. And then when they came after me, when the ABA came after me, there was some discovery because, I'm like, well, they come and they think I'm good enough to make their team and play on their team, and, let's give it a shot. So I wasn't ego tripping. I was success driven, but not ego tripping. And when I went down to camp, actually before I went to camp, I played in the summer league, the pro summer league. And when I played in the pro summer league, because I had signed a contract, that was a revelation for me, because now I was playing with grown men and playing for real, and basically playing with guys who got paid to do this.
Yeah.
So I had a successful tour with the Rucker League in New York, the pro league. They actually gave me my nickname of Dr. J.
What you think of that, Doc? When they gave you that, what did you think of that?
Well, they were calling me the Claw, and they was calling me Black Moses, and all these different names. And I was like, well, the doctor's been my name for a long time with my high school buddies and college buddies. So Dr. J evolved out of the doctor instead of being called those other things. And then when I went to training camp, after the first couple of scrimmages, because it was a free agent camp, the trainer said to the coach, Al Bianchi, said, you need to sit him down because these guys, they're going to try to hurt him, because I was dunking on them and I was, I was doing my thing.
With the big afro. Don't forget that.
Shaking and baking and taking it hard to the rack. He said, they're gonna take him out. So they took me out the game. And for most of training camp, I sat as opposed to playing, So that was the difference between the ABA too, because it was, the more liberal and open-minded, and things weren't, lines and columns. It was more creativity. And George Gervin always talks about that. Charlie Scott, started over in the ABA, Rick Barry, Artis Gilmore, Dan Issel, George McGinnis, just a lot of guys who I think starting their careers there did make a difference because, you weren't ego tripping.
Ari?
Yeah, no, I mean, and then it's crazy to think about how the ABA situation with you went versus like how stars of the NBA have it today. So you had to fight with the owner of the Squires to talk. I mean, it was just incredible.
Yeah, the ownership in the ABA, Earl Foreman owned our team, and they had some wild and woolly guys all across the league. Roy Ball on the Nets, and Oakland Oaks. Pat Boone owned the Oakland Oaks, and
what about Larry Keenan? Larry Keenan.
Yeah, Larry was a teammate in New York. So that was like my third year when we drafted Larry Keenan, and we had Keenan and Williamson, John Williamson and Larry Keenan, and both of them were, awesome ball players, and they're kind of treated differently because they went to the ABA. And the reality of it is, you come out of college, whether you go ABA or NBA, really shouldn't matter. But they're suppressing the stats and all that kind of stuff. But you got it right in terms of, giving me the props with the 30,000 points and 16 All-Star games instead of, just limiting it to the NBA. So I do appreciate that because, everybody doesn't do that.
You listening to Showtime with Coop Podcast, and we got the one and only Dr. J. Doc, we're at the point now of what I call Coop's lightning round. I'm going to give you some names, and you can talk about them as long or as short as you want to, okay? Mm-hmm. First name, Billy Cunningham.
Well, Billy was a great player, great coach, Hall of Fame. Every aspect of his game was worthy of note. He was the type of guy who bring people out of their seats. That's why they call him the Kangaroo Kid.
That's right. Oscar Robertson.
Oscar, best all around, all time. My all time great player. When I name my starting five for all time, I go back to when I was 15 years old, and Oscar's the captain of that team.
The late, great, and my personal friend, Moses Malone.
Well, Big Mo, all and everything. I mean, when Mo got to town, suddenly I think Maurice Cheeks said it best. He said, I think we got a chance of winning every night, and very few teams have that mentality where every night you figure, well, we got a good chance of winning this game, even if we don't play well. So that was that 83 team. And Moses was the, he was the mountain, and we, climbed on his shoulders, and, all of us who were good players. I think the Los Angeles hosted the All-Star game that year.
Yeah.
And we had myself and Cheeks and Tony and Moses. And maybe there was an argument for Bobby Jones to be on the All-Star team, represent the East, because he was the best defensive player in the East or whatever. So with four guys repping that year, that year was a blessing. And Moses was truly a blessing.
Willie Sojourner.
Oh man, now you're talking about ABA. Willie and I came in together. We roomed together, and he came out of Weber State, so he was in kind of a little bit of a big time basketball program. He was their first draft pick, and they had high expectations of him, and I just loved him, man. He taught me a lot about Philadelphia before I even became involved with Philadelphia. And him and Mike Sojourner, they were a little kooky, or whatever. But he had a nice touch. I look at Joel Embiid, man. He's like the second coming of Willie Soldier. He's got those soft hands, move outside, and that's how good Willie was. To compare him to a young rising star like Embiid.
Medgar Evers.
Medgar Evers. Now, I played in the Medgar Evers League, but never met him because, the generation before me. Mm-hmm. I think their league was in Chicago. So I don't know a whole lot about him personally that I could talk about in terms of never having met him.
David Stern.
David, the NBA is so indebted to David for figuring something out that was right in front of everybody for decades. And just in terms of how to make this thing work, how to make the melting pot, which is the NBA, an association for one and for all that could benefit one and for all forever. He should be given credit for that.
The late and probably one of the zaniest people that you've ever played with, but never played the NBA, the late Daryl Dawkins.
Well, he did play in the NBA because he was my teammate in Philly, and we played for the NBA championship 3 times in 6 years. And as you know, we were runner-ups in those 6 years. So he had his championship experience when he left the Philly and went to the Nets. He played the second half of his career. So I think he only played with 2 teams. And this was a phenomenal guy, a prodigy coming out of high school and going straight to the pros from high school. Quick wit, great sense of humor, special guy who was a character on and off the court, and especially on the bus rides down to Maryland or the bus rides to New York from Philly.
Sonny Hill.
Well, Sonny's a genius, man. I never saw him play, but I just heard stories, mostly from him, about how good he was, and he had to be able to do some of the things that he said. So he was.
Doc, this last person, and I only bring him up because it used to. I love him, but it used to just pain me because every time he played the national anthem, you guys beat us. The late Grover Washington.
Grover Washington Jr. was a good friend. Special in so many ways, not only musically, but I remember the composition that he did during one of our games called Let It Flow for Dr. J, and got a chance to share time with his family, his kids, Shayna and Lil Grover. We used to shoot pool, we used to play tennis, and try to play a little basketball, although I had a high.
Last thing for Doc, the dunk on Michael Cooper. What was your thoughts when that play started happening, and was that probably your best dunk that you've ever done?
No, the best one was on Alvin Hayes. You got second place on this one, Coop.
That's good. Thank you, Doc.
Yeah, you got second place, man.
What was your thoughts when you're going to do that?
Cheeks tips the ball. I go and retrieve it. Coming down the left sideline and, seeing you out the corner of my eye, knowing what a good defensive player, a great defensive player you are, and probably something you wanted to block. So I don't know. I kind of went into the float zone, rocked the baby a little bit and held it back. And really, when you jumped, I think it was a matter of waiting you out a little bit. And we were like soaring in the air together. And it was really a nice feeling, a nice moment, although it happened so fast. And then, you were getting so close to the rim, you ducked. And, next thing I know, kaboom. And, the move was just run back down the court and forever be entwined in one of the better basketball players in NBA history.
Doc, I'm going to tell you this before I let you go. My thought process, and when you were going down there, I said, you know what? I got an opportunity to block the greatest dunker that's never played in this game. And I said, you know what? If I can get to the rim before him and get turned, I'm going to block this shot. And the next thing I knew, by the time I got to the rim, you were on my back. And I said, you know what? Let me just get out the way. What?
You had shot by, man. Once you shot by, then I just had an easy one to the bank.
Doc, thank you so much, man. Really appreciate you, man. It was blessings to you and everything, okay?